Hello everyone, this is G and I'm back for my second video of the day. So this was something I saw last night and I wanted to cover it last night but it was really late, and so I'm deciding to cover it today. So apparently this info dump that I'm about to read, since I know that on the screen it's pretty difficult to read, so I'll read it to you guys. This info dump is apparently written by Emillia Clarke, who I believe is an actress. If I understand correctly, because I really don't follow actors and actresses like that, but if I remember correctly, I think she's the one who played Daenerys, isn't it? The white-haired dragon woman who goes insane toward the end of King of Game of Thrones, right? I think her. Anyway, apparently she's writing a comic book. Okay, nothing new. It's not the first time somebody who's outside of comics has made their own comic. Heck, I remember hearing that Keanu Reeves had some sort of comic going on Kickstarter or one of those sites. I think it's called Berserker or something. But the reason I'm covering this is because while the art looks okay, though I wonder why the gentleman in the tuxedo serving the food, right, is wearing a face mask in the year 2049. Are you implying that we're still going to be wearing face masks in 2049? Because that's not something I want to think about. I don't want to think about still having to wear a face mask whenever I go outside in the year 2049. Especially since he apparently is the only one wearing it. So what? Is it just something that the help have to wear? Is he sick? I don't know what's going on here. But anyway, the reason I'm highlighting this is because the writing on this one page is awful. The writing on this one page is awful, and it's the type of thing that would honestly turn me off from a comic book. Because here's the thing. I know I often talk about art and character design and all that because comics, video games, and whatnot are indeed visual mediums. But what got me into reading comics was the writing, right? That's what always drew me in. I've always been willing to forgive okay, right, art if the writing is good. For me, I've always been of the opinion that the best artists and the best writers can um, tell a story without that element, but that they work best together. For example, a great writer can tell a story without great art. Great a great artist can tell a story without great writing, but that the best stories, especially in a visual medium like a comic, are told when the writing and the art are really, really strong and really support and supplement one another, right? I've always been of that opinion, but what got me into reading comics was the writing, not necessarily the art. So I've always been a bit more focused on the writing and critical of the writing. I used to do comic reviews, and if you check those out, you'll see that I tend to come down very, very hard on the writing, more so than the art. I can be forgiving toward subpar art, but I really can't do that for subpar writing. And this isn't just subpar writing, this is bad writing. This is an info dump, but this is the type of thing that Brian Michael Bendis does. For those who don't read comics or are not familiar with his name, Brian Michael Bendis is a comic writer. He's worked for DC, he's worked for Marvel, he made Ironheart. Uh, he was uh, he was doing Superman. I think he's off the book now, but I know he was writing Superman for a while, for a few years, because like two or 3 years ago, DC made this huge announcement that Brian Michael Bendis was coming to write Superman, and Superman fans just cried, and not for a good reason. Bendis is noted in his writing. One of the chief critiques of his writing is the fact that he just writes and writes and writes and writes and writes. And he doesn't actually say anything with his writing. It's just an info dump. So I don't know if a I don't know how much comic knowledge Emillia Clarke has, but the way she wrote this was very, very, very Brian Michael Bendis like. It's just an info dump. It's worse than what happens at speed dating, right? Where you just go, hey, my name is this, I do this. Children, children telling you what happened during their day have better storytelling skills than what I'm about to read to you. So let me get to it. Right, so here's what it says here. I know it's going to be hard to read, so that's why I'm going to read it to you guys. But it says here, Clapton Art Museum, New York City, March 2049, right? So in the not too distant future, given that we're in the year 2021, but it says here, my name is Maya Cuppier? Cupper? Cuppier? Cooper? I don't know. I am 29 years old, a single mom, a high school dropout, chemical engineer, part-time sex worker, Thai food junkie, and biological freak of nature. Scorpio and blood moon rising, no drama, no water signs. I like Ruth Bader Ginsburg speeches and Martha Stewart living. I enjoy more children's television shows than is probably healthy. I lie to myself every January about using the elliptical I bought 4 years ago for anything more than an expensive clothes hanger. Make sure this is still recording. Okay. I get anxiety from feeling like I don't listen to enough podcasts about controlling anxiety. And I made a pacifist run on Undertale my first time through, including escaping the bullet hell. Thank you very much. I am currently tramp schmoozing at an Upper West Side corporate after party as part of my boss's entourage for a female empowerment in the workplace initiative. The last CFO had to step down after getting caught soliciting what turned out to be several thousand Mexican scorpions in a trench coat as part of a viral prank sensation, so here we are. And this? And this, honey, would be where I officially stop reading your comic. Now, perhaps this is meant to be funny, right? Perhaps this is meant to be funny, but I don't quite find it funny. This is not storytelling. I literally have books on storytelling that talk about how to write convincing dialogue and still get certain points across, right? Certain beats, certain elements that will move the plot or the story along. This is not storytelling. A child going, Mommy, 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 here's what I did today. I went to Peter's house, and then we had fun, and then we had food, and then I went to Judy's house, and Judy's house, her mom has an Xbox, and we did that. That's more storytelling. That's more storytelling than this is. Why do we need to? First of all, certain let's go back to the beginning. It says here that she's 29 years old, a single mother, a high school dropout, and a chem engineer. Okay, those are not things that make you relatable. You're a parent, okay. You're 29, okay. I'm wondering how in the world you're a high school dropout, but became a chemical engineer because, from what I was researching on chemical engineering, you need at least a bachelor's degree, just as like the baseline level of education, and probably a master's if you really want to advance. So you just skip a whole plot point there, or it's a plot hole because it's like, okay, did you finish your, did you get a GED or what is now known as, which is a high school equivalency diploma, I think. So did you get that and then go to college? Because I highly doubt people looking for chemical engineers are going to hire somebody with a high school education. And then the whole, signs thing, astrological signs and all that. This this type of stuff does not make you relatable. It's literally one of those things that you see on a website at times about someone. It goes, 5 fast facts about so and so, right? These are not qualities that you can build a story around. These are not qualities that give us any idea of who this character is as a person. Is she a good person? Is she a bad person? Okay. Does she work hard? Is she self-sacrificing? Does she have positive qualities? What are her negative qualities? I guess some might look at the fact that she's a part-time sex worker as a negative. I don't know, right? I would imagine part-time sex work probably means she has an OnlyFans, right? But are there any consequences for her about that? Does the fact that she's a part-time sex worker put her job at risk? How does her child feel about it? Because she says that she's a single mother, right? I guess the only thing we could gather from the rest of it is the fact that she's, probably the painfully stereotypical liberal feminist type. Given that I like Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Okay, and I'm guessing we could infer that she's probably the stereotypical liberal feminist type, right? And I watch Martha Stewart living, and right, I'm guessing that you could gather from the rest of this that she's terribly neurotic. I would like to believe that this is meant to be sort of a playful joke of like the older millennial, like someone my age, though I cannot relate to any of this at all. Outside of being female, there's nothing for me to relate to here. I am in my mid 30s. I don't have kids. I certainly don't engage in sex work. I have no interest in politics, really. Okay, Ruth Bader Ginsburg has since passed away, so it's like, why bring her up? I don't watch Martha Stewart living, so it's like none of it, none of this I can relate to. I don't watch a lot of podcasts about anxiety. I watch more podcasts about war than I do anxiety. So it's like, okay, if this was meant to like reach out to someone like me to make me feel represented or whatever, um, it doesn't. It doesn't. But most importantly, as I said before, this isn't writing. This is not writing at all. There's this classic adage about writing, about telling a story, which is show, don't tell. Show, don't tell. You could show her, for example, bringing up the whole, Ruth Bader Ginsburg thing. I would imagine that cell phone still exists in the year 2049, so you could show her, watching a video about Justice Ginsburg, right? You could show her watching a video about her, and then you could have someone go, "Hey, what are you watching?" And she goes, "Oh, I'm watching this retrospective on Bader Ginsburg's life, and she was so inspiring." That would give you a better idea, right, of who this woman is than just having her say, "I like Ruth Bader Ginsburg." There's so much here that you could actually just use the art and actually create scenes around to tell a mother fracking story instead of doing this info dump. And keep in mind, this is not like thought bubbles. You can see here that the lines are pointing toward right. See, you can see like the edge part here pointing toward her face and toward her head. So these are not thought bubbles, right? And this isn't her thinking all this. This is her talking to the reader. This is her talking to me. This is her talking to you, telling you all of this, as if this is supposed to make you understand her more. No, honey, it doesn't. No one talks like this. No decent writer no decent writer writes dialogue like this. No decent writer structures a plot like this. Okay? No. This is this is like this is like anti-storytelling 101. It's like, how in in like Jack Kirby's Fourth World Stories, like dealing with Apocalypse and Darkseid and the Female Furies and all that stuff, like Miss Miracle and Barda and all that. There's this thing called the anti-life equation, right? Well, this is the anti-writing equation. This is a perfect example of exactly what you don't do if you want to write anything, an introductory scene, a summary of a character, anything. You don't do this. You don't do an info dump because it is literally saying a lot, right, or writing a lot, but saying absolutely nothing of value. This is not a character that I want to get to know. I don't care about her. I'm not interested in her. There's nothing intriguing here. There's nothing that makes me say, "Oh, tell me more. That's interesting. Let me see where this goes." All this tells me is that you don't know how to write. And since I like to read, you and I, honey, are at an impasse. As I've said uh, before, I have read better fan fiction. I have written, I have written better fan fiction than this because I actually literally study the art of storytelling, so that when people read my stories, you actually get a story, you actually get a plot, a theme, some sort of movement, instead of just pages upon pages of info dump. Right? But that's just me. But I just wanted to cover this because this is again just proof positive of why mainstream comics is going down the drain and why manga is outclassing them in every metric. Manga writers can write. Manga writers can draw, right? Manga are not don't live in fear of the idealized female form, right? Manga is providing for Western audiences what Western comic books, in particular American superhero comics, used to provide. This is what happens when you allow people who are not fans of the medium, who don't like comics, who don't care about comics, who look at comics and see nothing but a mess of problems that they feel need to be fixed, and you give them the keys to the kingdom, and you let them do whatever they want. And when fans like me or fans such as Comicsgate or whatnot, and those who are outside of Comicsgate, you don't have to be a critic to be Comicsgate, right? When the fans speak up, and even when former industry pros speak up and say, "Hey, this is just pushing our very tiny fan base away," and all you do is just tell the fans off, right? You push them away with your terrible writing, with your subpar art, and then with your worst behavior online, and then you wonder why you are losing the American market to Japan. But anyway, that's the video. Please let me know what you think, and I will see you all in the next one. Have a good day and night wherever you are.